Good evening, this is Occupier Kaylin coming to you live from Palm Ranch Stage in the Olmsted Center in Drake University. Tonight I will be bringing you something a little different, but nonetheless intriguing. On the projection screen has been brought down. It's a really wide screen, so I don't know if it will all be used. I might have to back up a bit. But this evening, in a few minutes, I've met one of them already. Told him that I would be live streaming, so he thought it was cool. 3 Israeli soldiers or former soldiers will be telling their stories of their military activities, what they feel about it, why they did what they did, whatever they did. I have obviously no idea what yet, but I'll be hearing that shortly. But I get the sense that because of the nature of this event, that they are here because they want to tell the world something that is not known outside of Israeli military or Israel in general. So that's why I decided to come out here and live stream it. So it's just one of those kinds of events that I like to stream. Different people coming in from outside the city, coming in to talk about different things. And I wanted to go to that student power convergence yesterday at Grinnell College, but I never got a ride, so I was bummed that I didn't get to go stream that, because that would have been awesome to capture high school and college students talking about activism and pulling their resources to bring about the change that they want to see, not only for their particular generation, but for society in general. So hopefully I'll catch up with those students later on when they start doing some actions. So I decided to go ahead and get my stream on while we wait for things to get set up, trying to find mic jacks. But all there are in the stage is power outlets. And apparently there will be some images or videos projected onto the screen. So this Olmsted Center is not only a student hangout, but there are several stages I've been through. There we got sound. This is different events can go on for students or the wider community. And some of these things for the wider community, the students themselves organize, or they are simply having the event here. They've reserved the spot, so they do it. And it's a good location, easy bus access. And right there, a student journalist is just interviewing one of them. And as this goes on, when the QA session starts, if you have any questions that you want to ask, put it into the chat and I'll read it out loud. So there will be a question and answer session at the end of their talks. I don't know if after each one or after all 3 of them. I'm not sure how they'll do it, but there is an opportunity for audience members to ask questions. And also, before we get started, if you see something unusual in my stream, if it sounds like it's coming out of a blender looping on itself, give me a yell in the chat and I'll shut it down and restart it. And I can't use a Wi-Fi in here because it's not stable. Even with the password that I have, it's not stable, so I'll just be burning data. But I will check the chat often. And it looks like we're about to get started. They're still doing some setup, but it's kind of weird. I come in here and someone asks me what I'm studying. I say, no, I'm not a student. I'm just an independent live streamer. They see me in a college campus who think I'm a student. Oh well, not the first time that happened. I don't know what the lighting will be when they start projecting real stuff on the screen, if they'll turn these off. There are people still coming into this area. So taking a little bit more time to get set up. Oh, good. That's good. Thanks for letting me know. Hopefully it'll stay that way. My ball underneath my chair.
Hi guys, we're just waiting for the technical things to be sorted out. We'll be starting in a few minutes. Sorry for the delay.
You think it might be Monday?
I think it'll be a few more minutes. 5 more minutes will be good.
Yeah, it must be Monday. Monday is showing itself. I think I'm a little crooked in here. I'm just trying to straighten my phone out in my monopod. It's seen a little crooked. That should be good. There's a lot of activity on this campus right now because this is the week of the Drake Relays track and field meet, which brings athletes from all over the world here, not just around the United States, but people like to use the Drake Relays as a good competition to gauge their skill in whatever events they do, to get a feel for the kind of competition that they want to face if they want to go to a national meet elsewhere or international meet elsewhere or the Olympics. So there's a lot of activity on and around this campus that will lead up to the actual competition this coming weekend. And of course, Drake University is also renowned for its law school, which is among the top law schools in the U.S. Just a little extra background. Right now, probably about 30. This is kind of a smaller stage area. That's probably why it was picked, because there would not be but I got it set for I think 60. Looks like 60 to 75 people could probably sit here. And because this is not a completely enclosed area, people in other parts of the building might be able to hear when the sound bounces off the sidewalls and around to the other part of the building, the other open spaces. Apparently still some technical issues, either with the projector right now it's just a blue screen. Oh well, that fits in with the school colors. The wonders of technology these days. I can't help them out that because I have a laptop, but it's a dinosaur. I can't even connect to my own Wi-Fi at home with it. That's how low powered it is. So I'll use it for other things that I don't need the internet for. They're gonna try a different laptop, see if that'll work. Just give you another look around the room. There we go. You got something up now.
All right, we're good. Okay, we're gonna start. Is there a microphone?
I heard one being tested earlier.
Can anyone hear me specifically without the microphone? I'll use one, but I think my low voice level. All right, so we're gonna start since we finally figured out the presentation. So thank you very much for coming here tonight. My name is Asaf Grunberg. I'm the Central Region Campus Director for Stand With Us. This is our 6th annual Israel Soldier Story Tour. We've been all over the Midwest, and second year in a row that we've been here at Drake, so we're very, very happy to have this program here. Stand With Us, for those of you who do not know, is an educational pro-Israel organization. We do programs all across the country to educate people about Israel, about the Middle East. And this tour is one of those programs that we do. You can see some of our materials over there in the back, and we produce a lot more materials. This event is meant to be not just a presentation, but a discussion. We're here for the sake of dialogue. And so we welcome questions at the end of the event. We do ask that you wait till the end of the event to ask questions. Any questions that you want to ask, we welcome it. We're more than happy to do it. But please wait till the end with any comments or any questions you might have. If you need to leave, please do so quietly, so to not disturb others as well. And again, as much as you might get upset or have any question or thought that you want to introduce to our guys here, please wait till the end to do so. I'll let the guys introduce themselves. Oh, you want to maybe scooch a little bit, so guys, if you don't mind coming a little bit over here, so we have a little.
Thanks.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I'll let the guys introduce themselves, and thank you. Enjoy the program.
Having people move up forward, those that are sitting farther back.
Hi everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm very excited being here. It's my first time in the state. So there's always a first. It's a very beautiful campus, so I hope you appreciate how nice it is. My name is Matan, and I'm here today to share with you my personal experience as an Israeli Defense Forces officer, and also as a college student. I'm a college student like most of you. I'm not here to talk about the conflict or about general things, just to really share where I come from and what my personal experience is. Well, first I'd like to share with you a little bit about my background and where I'm from, so you get to know me a little bit better. I'm 28, as I said, I might have said this, but I'm 28 years old. I live in a town called Givat Shmuel. It's in the center of Israel. It's about 10 minutes out of Tel Aviv. I'm married to Nafar. This is my wife from Nafar. I got married about a year ago, last May, and this is my family. I'm a law student at Bar Ilan University. I'm in my 4th year of college. I'm just about to finish my law school, and I'm going to start my law internship. You guys watch the show Suits? Suits? Yeah. Good show, right? Yeah. So I want to be the Israeli Harvey Specter one day. That's my goal, I guess. I grew up and lived almost all my life in Israel, except for 5 years where I lived in the United States with my family for my mother's work. We lived on the East Coast in New Jersey, New York, as a small child, so this is also where I picked up my English. My vocabulary sucks, but somehow I got a little bit of the accent. It's also because my mother's American. She was born and raised here in America. She later met my father, who worked here in the United States. He's Israeli, and they fell in love, moved to Israel, and you know the rest is history. I love playing basketball. I played basketball all my life. I'm tall, but not tall enough to be good. So I had to move on with my life and not stay playing basketball all my life. This is my favorite Israeli sports figure. You know this guy? I'm not talking about LeBron James. I'm talking about the short guy. This is probably the most famous Israeli sports figure in Israel, David Blatt, head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've never seen a game before in my life of Cleveland, but now I really try not to miss a game. They just won the first playoff game yesterday, so I'm pretty excited about that. You guys don't have an NBA team here, right? No, so, yeah, you should support them. In the last few days in Israel, we commemorated Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. I always, on a personal level, my grandmother from my father's side is a Holocaust survivor. My grandfather, who grew up in a Zionist family in Russia in the 1930s, moved to what was then called Palestine, today called Israel. And during World War II, while he saw that Nazi Germany was swarming towards Egypt in Africa and towards what was then called Palestine, he decided to join the British Army. And he served in a unit in the British Army that had both Jews. This is my grandfather, this handsome guy. I wish I got his genes. And he served in a unit that had Jews and Arabs who served together to fight Nazi Germany. And I always find this fascinating because also my grandfather, my American grandfather, served in the American Army in the 1950s. So this is a little bit about myself. Military service in Israel is mandatory. We have to serve in the army. We don't have another choice. Boys serve 3 years, girls serve for 2 years. Now, although we have to go to the army, for us it's very much a right and a privilege. We want to go to serve in the army. Okay? Now, we have countries surrounding us that for many years don't like us. Some of them have tried several times to destroy us. So us Israelis, we have to defend ourselves. We have countries such as Lebanon in the north with the terrorist organization Hezbollah in Lebanon. We have Syria. We all know what's going on in Syria. Everyone's fighting everyone. Syrian army is fighting ISIS, fighting Jabhat al-Nusra, fighting Al-Qaeda. Everyone's really fighting each other, but they all hate us. There's ISIS in Iraq. There's Iran that vows to destroy us. Thankfully, we have peace with Jordan and Egypt, and we still have our ongoing conflict with the Palestinians both in Gaza and the West Bank. And we're such a tiny country. I grew up here in Even Yehuda, right near Netanya. It takes me about 11, 12-minute drive to the closest Palestinian town of Tulkarem. It's probably the time that it takes you to drive to your closest Starbucks, possibly. That's our border. So if we don't defend ourselves, we would be destroyed. And I didn't do 3 years in the army, I did 5 years in the army. This is because I had this sense of collective responsibility and I wanted to serve my country a little bit more. And this is why I served 5 years in the army. I started my army service 10 years ago in the Navy. It's the Israeli Naval Academy. It's very similar to the Annapolis Naval Academy here in the United States. And in 2005, I participated in what is known as the disengagement from Gaza Strip. And I'll explain what this is. In 2005, although Israel is known for fighting and winning wars, it decided to take a bold step for peace. What it decided to do is it took 8,000 Israeli citizens that lived in the Gaza Strip and removed them to other parts of Israel. They took 20 communities that were in the Gaza Strip and relocated them to other parts of Israel. Now, it did this single-sidedly, hoping that by doing so, we would be able to reach peace with our Palestinian neighbors in Gaza. There was a consensus in Israel that by doing so, we would be able to achieve peace. I was part of that consensus. And we knew that there was a small chance, but we were willing to take it. And it was my responsibility as an 18-year-old soldier to knock on people's doors in places called Shirat Hayam in the Rafiach Yam, and to help them pack their bags, help them remove stuff from their homes, and remove them to other parts of Israel. I was a young soldier. I saw people crying, people hugging their furniture, sobbing. It was very, very emotional for them. It was also very hard for me as an Israeli to take fellow Israelis out of their homes. But we were willing to do this for peace. And it was a very big sacrifice by Israel and a very big concession. Now, unfortunately, what we got in response is Hamas. Okay? Hamas is a radical terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip that took over the Gaza Strip in a violent coup, in phony elections. And since then, it threw 12,000 rockets at Israeli citizens. Now, on a more personal level, I'd like you to meet my uncle. His name is Avrem Aleh. Avrem Aleh lives in Kibbutz Erez. Kibbutz Erez is right here. Oops, sorry. Right over here on the tip of the border of the Gaza Strip. He lives there with his children, his grandchildren. His house is literally 500 meters from the Gaza Strip. I have no idea what that is in a non-metric system. You're the only country in the world that doesn't use it, but it's very, very close, I assure you. And his life has been drastically affected by these rocket attacks. His grandchildren, my cousins, grew up in a life where they can't go to their friend's house if their friend doesn't have bomb shelter in their home. They can't go to the pool in their kibbutz because there isn't a bomb shelter near the pool. They have 15 seconds to run to shelter once an alarm goes off, wherever they are in the house. And this is how they grew up. They actually live so close to the border that usually the alarm goes off after the first mortar shell or rocket hits. So this is the kind of life that they grew up in. And in 2009, when really the amount of violence escalated, I was no longer in the Navy. I was now an infantry officer. I was a platoon commander. I had 25 soldiers. And I participated in what is called Operation Cast Lead in Gaza against Hamas. Now, our mission was very clear. It was to stop the rocket fire at Israel. It was to destroy only the Hamas infrastructure. And I'd like to share with you one story from Operation Cast Lead. My platoon was given a mission to take over a house of a very important Hamas terrorist. We knew that it was his residential home where he lived with his children. We knew he was important because also the intelligence called it the house of the operative, meaning this is his house where he lived with his family. Now, we could have easily hit this house from the air. We could have easily shot this house with tank shells. I was there, the tanks were right next to me, but we decided to endanger ourselves and enter this house and search it to make sure no one's inside. And that's what we did. We entered the house, we cleared all the floors, and made sure no one's inside. Thankfully, no one was there. But then we started searching the house for ammunition. We entered the first floor, started entering the rooms, we couldn't find anything. Then we went to the second floor, and we came upon a bedroom. A regular parent's bedroom. Imagine your own parent's bedroom. There's a bed, there's a cupboard, there's a closet, there's a white baby crib on the other side of the bed, and one of my soldiers was trying to open the cupboard, and it was locked. He couldn't open it. He tried, he couldn't open it. He yelled a curse word in Hebrew. He was mad that he couldn't open it. And it seemed weird to me that he couldn't open it, so I went over to this cupboard. I had an M4 at the time. I broke it open with my gun, with my rifle, and I stuck my hand inside. And I was trying to feel things around, and suddenly I started yelling to my soldiers, "Bingo! Bingo! Bingo!" And I wasn't talking about the game bingo. This was a code name for my soldiers to run over to see what I found. And I'd like to share with you a little bit what I found in this parent's bedroom in a residential home in Gaza. Okay? Rocket-propelled grenades, mortar shells, handguns, AK-47s, thousands of bullets, magazines, hand grenades, two-way radios, army vests, camouflage gear. This is one of my soldiers. I took the photo. I didn't know at the time that I'd ever had to show this to anyone. The closet was right here. The mattress, we pulled it up so we can put the stuff on the bed. This is the cupboard right over here where the ammunition was stocked. The white baby crib was on my side of the bed. And it was really hard for me to see that, this is a parent's bedroom where people live. All this stuff was inside. But it was really nothing compared to what we found in the backyard of this house. I have a soldier, his name is Gregory. He started searching the house, the backyard, and he stumbled upon something, which we didn't know what it was at first. It was this. What you see here in the pictures, in the top two pictures, are Hamas rocket launchers that we found in this backyard. This is Gregory right over here. They were on the floor. We picked them up. This photo isn't mine. This is a photo to show you how Hamas shoots these rockets. They put the rockets on the rocket launcher, and they shoot them at Israel. And once they shoot them, they drop the rocket launcher so we can't find them. This is where I'm sure his children play ball, play soccer. And in the corner of the house, there was a hut or a shack, depends what you call it. Now, I'm sure at your own home, if there's a hut, you probably have barbecue gear or an old tennis racket or some camping equipment, right? So in this hut, there was a Hamas rocket factory. These are metal tubes that we found. This is one of my soldiers. These are fertilizers that they use to create explosives. There were also, there you can see the warheads. There were manuals in Arabic to create these, how to create these rockets. Now, thankfully, we were able to document all these weapons and take them out of the Gaza Strip in order to get them destroyed. Now, again, it was hard for me to see this in a home, and it was emotional. But I also had a sense of pride because I knew that these rockets were literally aimed at my uncle. I knew that they were aimed at my family. I knew that they were aimed at my uncle's neighbors and the other surrounding kibbutzim in the Gaza. So it was very important for me to be able to find these weapons. Unfortunately, the violence didn't stop. There was a ceasefire, but then in 2012 there was another escalation of violence. And the last escalation of violence was this last summer, in 2014. And I'd like to share a little bit about what I did during the summer and how it unfolded. I'm a law student. I was at home. I was no longer in the army. I was trying to study for my test, but I'd rather be at the beach. And we opened the news and we heard that 3 Israeli teenagers were kidnapped from a bus stop in the West Bank by Hamas terrorists. We didn't know where they were. The Israeli Defense Forces were searching for them in the West Bank for a few days. During this time, in the Gaza, not in the West Bank, Hamas started shooting rockets at Israeli kibbutzim in the southern border, breaking the ceasefire. Now, unfortunately, Israel found the bodies of these three Israeli teenagers that were not much younger than you guys. They were kidnapped, murdered on the spot, and their bodies were hidden. Now, unfortunately, the violence in Gaza didn't stop. Hamas shot rockets, and Israel had to defend its citizens. So it attacked these rocket launchers, attacked the people that were trying to shoot these rockets, and this escalated into a bigger round of violence. 2 weeks into the fighting, I was called to reserve duty to defend 3 kibbutzim. Kibbutz Sufa, Kibbutz Cholit, and Kibbutz Nir Yitzchak, on the southern tip of the Gaza border. I was called to reserve duty. Reserve duty means that in the Israeli army, once you finish your regular army service, you're called upon in times of emergency to participate in the emergency or in the war. Okay? We train for this until the age of 40 for a whole month, a year. We leave everything, doesn't matter what we do. If I'm a gardener, a lawyer, a student, or a successful businessman, and I was called to participate in this operation to patrol these kibbutzim, and I'll explain why. Before any Israeli soldier entered the Gaza Strip, or before any tank entered the Gaza Strip and crossed the border, 13 Hamas terrorists entered a tunnel on the Gaza side of the border, right over here. This is the Gaza border. They went through the tunnel under the border and surfaced on the Israeli side of the kibbutz, on the Israeli side of the fence, and was about to attack these kibbutzim here. Okay? Now, how do we know that they were going to attack the kibbutzim where the civilians stay? Now, I took this from Google Maps, and Hamas also has Google Maps. And if you look closely on these photos, you see that there's no army base, any army base at all. There's an army base up here. There's an army base down here, the Kerem Shalom crossing. And Hamas know that there's no army base here. But what they did see is this road over here. See this road over here? Can everyone see it? I call this the yellow brick road. Hamas knew exactly where to end its tunnel, right over here, where this road started, which in an easy 10, 12 minute walk, they could walk straight into the kibbutz and kill as many civilians as possible. Fortunately, the Israeli army cameras caught them. When the Hamas terrorists started noticing that the Israeli soldiers are approaching them, what they did is they escaped back into the tunnel unharmed. But this is what they left behind. Okay? Rocket-propelled grenades, thousands of bullets, machine guns. This is the photo that the Israeli army released, a part of a video where you can see the 13 Hamas terrorists on the Israeli side of the border. These are Israeli greenhouses. Now, I'm sharing with you this story because it's important for me to emphasize why it was so important for me to be here. The last war in Gaza was very hard. There were many Israelis killed. There were many Palestinians killed. There were also many Palestinians that fled their homes because their homes was a war zone where Hamas shot the rockets from. They left UN schools and to other places. But I'm sure you all heard this on the media, but I'm sure what you didn't hear on the media is that thousands of Israelis also left their homes in the kibbutzim surrounding the Gaza Strip. Thousands of people left. Mostly men stayed. Almost no women stayed. Almost no children stayed for the whole summer. My uncle, for almost 35 days, stayed with his family up north in central Israel. He stayed for over a week at my father's house. And it's because, they learned how to deal with the rockets and the mortar shells. As tough as life was for them, they learned to deal with it. But they could not deal with the fact that 13 Hamas terrorists come out from a tunnel, 10-minute walk from their house, and are aiming to kill them. That's something no one can live with. So that's why it was so important for me to be in this kibbutz, to defend people like my uncle. I'd like to end with a more optimistic say. I'm a student. I just got married a year ago. I love Israel. I love going to the beach. I love going partying in Tel Aviv. I really love my life as a civilian. And I enjoy not being called almost every summer to war. I wish I never have to be called almost every single summer to reserve duty for the whole summer. And not only because it's bad, but because it's a war and people get killed and no one wants this. Okay? And I really, really hope that I don't have to be called again and we just somehow resolve all our issues with our neighbors and we would be able to reach peace. I don't know how. I'm sure the politicians will somehow figure it out. Maybe not now, maybe later. But this is what really all Israelis want, and this is what I really want. So thank you very much for listening. I'm now going to invite up Chen, who's going to continue. Thank you.
Thanks, Matan. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chen Mazig. I'm 25 years old. From Israel. I was born and raised in Israel. I lived there all my life. And today I'm part of Stand With Us. I always start with apologizing for my English. English is not my first language. My first language is Arabic. My second language is Hebrew. And English is my third. And I picked it up from American TV shows. That's why it's so bad. So if you don't understand me, just stop me and I'll repeat myself. I picked it up from Saturday Night Live, actually. That's why it's so bad. Today I'm here to share with you the story of my life. And I always start my story with my family, which are the most important thing for me in my life. This is me and my mom. This is me and my grandmother when I was 13 years old, when I was young and cute. My grandparents came to Israel in the early 50s. My grandparents from my father's side came to Israel from Africa. This is Africa. They came from North Africa, actually, from Tunisia. In Tunisia, there was a population of 105,000 Jews, 105,000 Jews that lived there for ages. It was the center of their life, and they had a culture, they had their own customs. They had indigenous customs that were that started there. They lived there for hundreds of years. And they were forced out. They were really ancient people that lived in this area when different countries were controlling it and different powers were controlling over it, and they just lived there. When the French regime took over and colonized Tunisia, before there were even borders in this area of what country is what country, when the Nazis controlled the area and put them in labor camps, even African Jews were working under the Nazis in labor camps. The Vichy regime that was controlling it, but they were there. And I think I'm trying to emphasize it because it's important to understand that we are ancient people that are part of an ancient culture of the Middle East. It's a fabric of different religions and different people that the Jewish people, my family, was part of. So they were forced out from Tunisia, while my grandparents from my father's side are being forced out from North Africa. My grandparents from my mother's side are being forced out from Iraq. We're talking about ancient people. It's even more ancient. The Jewish community in Iraq, in Baghdad, they were there for hundreds and hundreds of years. There was 150,000 Jews that were all forced out. They were all cleansed because they are Jews. We're talking about a few tenths that are still alive, and even them, they need to live undercover. They lived there when it was Iraq. They lived before that when it was Babylonia. There was a consistent Jewish presence in this area, and following the creation of Israel, the Arab countries that attacked Israel has forced them out. To give you a better understanding of what it means to be forced out from a country, my grandmother shared a story with us how she was 20 years old, and she got back home to look for her dad, my great-grandfather. She was in her 20s and she had a 2-year-old baby in her arm, my uncle Itzik, and she's walking inside the house. She's looking for her dad. She can't find him anywhere. She's going up the stairs. She's looking for him there, and she can't find him there either. And they had a big window that was looking towards the main square in Baghdad, and she's approaching the window. She's looking down to the square, and she sees bodies hanging on poles. And she recognizes the face that it's a Jewish community, but she also recognized another face, and it's the face of her dad, my great-grandfather, that was executed that day. He was accused of being a Zionist spy. She had to leave. She couldn't take much with her. She always told us on how oppressed they were throughout the years in Iraq since the day she was born, and the stories that she heard from her grandparents. She said, people are calling it today second-class citizens, but it's not really second-class citizens. We weren't really citizens. We weren't allowed to do the same things that people in our country were allowed to do. So this was just a trigger for us to leave because we knew that we can't stay anymore. The Iraqi Jewish language, there's a special Arabic that is very unique for Iraqi Jews. And sometimes when I speak in Arabic with people from Iraq, they can recognize that I'm actually Iraqi Jew. So they left to Israel. Israel was the haven that took them. Luckily for them, it was a miracle that there was a place that would take them. By the way, the green countries in the map are Arab countries. Iran and Turkey are Muslim countries. That's why they're not in green. All the yellow countries are Jewish countries. It's just one. Further. But my story is not very unique. We're talking about almost 1 million Jewish refugees that were created following the creation of Israel, when following the attacks of the Arab countries on Israel, of the Arab League, that all agreed that Israel had no right to exist. Almost 1 million Jewish refugees that we're talking about 850,000 Jewish refugees that never received any justice, that their land has been stolen, their property has been taken, and no one has been standing up for them. Israel took them, and Israel made sure that they will have a place to live. They didn't put them in refugee camps. They put them in transit camps. Ma'abarot. Ma'abarot in Hebrew means transit camp. Israel could have put them in refugee camps and kept them as political tool and not allow them to integrate into the society and not giving them citizenship and making their life tougher and tougher and tougher. But instead, Israel chose the better way of integrating them, of creating a new future for them. Almost 1 million Jewish refugees, and I'm one of them. While my grandparents always said, you know, that was the past, and we don't. And I was always asking my grandmother that she saw. I said, Grandma, why won't you demand your justice? Why won't you demand your land back? Why won't you demand the property that you had? Millions of dollars of property that was taken from the Jewish refugees from the Arab countries. But I think they have a different approach. Their approach is, we are safe now, and we have a good future. We have a good country that takes care of us. We can offer our kids a good future, and that's the most important thing. Fighting for justice or demanding our land backs will not bring us anywhere. We are realistic, and we're focusing on hoping for a better future. That's what we've been doing for years. And I grew up in Petah Tikva. How many of you have been to Israel before? Okay, cool. So I grew up in Petah Tikva. Petah Tikva is a suburb of Tel Aviv, although most of Israel is a suburb of Tel Aviv. And when I was 12 years old, was the height of the second Intifada. Intifada in Arabic means violent uprising. It was a time that almost every day there was terror attacks somewhere else in Israel. And I'll share with you one story that happened when, as I said, I was 12 and my mom was sending me down the street to get myself ice cream, 2 blocks away from my home. And she says, Chen, be careful, you know, it's the second Intifada. It's days that almost every day there's a terror attack, especially on the Jewish holiday. For the Jewish holiday, because the goal of the terrorists is to terrorize the people. That's why they're doing it on Jewish holidays as well. And I'm saying, Mom, I'll be fine, don't worry, I'm going to this ice cream shop. And she says, no, Chen, you need to understand, if someone around you has a coat on him, stay away from him because it's summer and you shouldn't wear a coat. If someone has is speaking around you in Arabic and you can understand, and he says something that you know that is weird or wrong, just stay away from him. If someone has a body language, like giving me a briefing to an FBI agent before sending me on a mission of getting an ice cream, saying, Mom, I'll be fine, I'm going there every day, I'm getting ice cream every day. I was a chubby kid. I never skipped a day of getting ice cream. So I'm walking to the ice cream shop, and as I'm seconds away from getting into the place blows up in my face. I was standing right here, and the ice cream shop is right here, and I'm seeing glasses flying, and I see smoke and fire, and I hear this huge explosion, and everything around me is shaking, and people are running and screaming and crying. And I'm getting closer to this place that I was seconds from being inside there. And I'm shaking, and I'm looking inside, and I'm seeing some of the worst things that no 12-year-old kid should see. That no one should see. In this terror attack, there was a grandmother and her 2-year-old granddaughter, Israelis, that were eating ice cream. It was a hot day. And a Palestinian suicide bomber walked inside and blew himself up, killing both of them. I shared this story a lot during this week of the tour that I'm with Stand With Us, and I had students saying some nasty things. And one student said, well, you know, the guy that killed him, he was a freedom fighter. He was fighting for freedom. He wasn't attacking anyone. He wasn't a terrorist. If someone walks into an ice cream place, it's an ice cream place. It's not a military base. It's not. There was no soldiers inside. There was a grandmother and a 2-year-old granddaughter. And if he still decides to pull the trigger and kill himself with them, this is not freedom fighting. You don't fight for freedom against a 2-year-old girl that has done nothing wrong in this. She didn't do anything good in her life. She's 2 years old. So to even get this twisted way of thinking that it's freedom fighting to kill civilians is horrible. And it's not collateral damage. It's not, again, there wasn't military base that were civilians around it or the civilians were using the military base. No, they were eating ice cream. That was their sin. So that's pure evil, and we need to understand that and recognize it as such. I ran back home that day and I was crying, and I told my mom what happened, and she hugged me and she cried too. But I think that day it was one of the most inspirational things, that moment that I had in my life, that my mom is stopping me while I'm saying some stuff that I probably shouldn't have said. She said, "Chen, this what you just said is racist. You're not going to talk this way. You're going to remember that this guy is a terrorist. This guy was trying to kill you, but it's just one guy. And he's part of a terrorist group that, yeah, there is people like him, but there's tons of people that just want to live their life. And you're going to focus on the fact that you're alive." And I still remember her saying, "You're alive, you're alive, you're alive." That was her message, my mom's message. Instead of teaching me to hate, instead of teaching me to be resentful against the other side, she's teaching me to be appreciative that I'm alive. And that's why when I turned 18 and I had to join the army, I chose to join the humanitarian unit of the army. The Israeli army has a very unique unit. It's called the COGAT unit. It's C-O-G-A-T, the Coordinator of Government Activities in the Territories. Basically a unit of thousands and thousands of soldiers and officers that their only job is to take care of the Palestinian civilians. Through working on infrastructure, through working on building roads, building clinics, helping in development of the Palestinian territories, making sure that there's a right level of humanitarian situation, that there's enough medicine, that there's enough food, that there's never a shortage. There's different branches. There's the economic branch that work with Palestinian businessmen and Palestinian businesses, helping them prosper. We believe that through prosperity we'll be able to achieve peace, because when someone has a good career, and a good job, and a good car, and his kids are well educated, he won't go out and kill Israelis so easily. That's the idea behind my unit. Another branch is the security coordination branch that work with the Palestinian security forces. There's a very strong Palestinian security forces in the Palestinian territories in the West Bank. We're working with them, we're helping them, we're training them. And there's the international organization branch that I was part of. It was basically working on international coordination between the International Red Cross, between the UN, helping them help the Palestinians, making sure that the projects that they're doing are right. We knew more about what's going on in the field than they did in regards to the Palestinian communities, and we helped them better their projects and focus better, and bettering the focus, I guess, of where there is a need to act. This was so first part was working on their infrastructure projects. Another part was to liaise with them on issues that are emergencies or urgent cases that we had to help them. Another aspect was working with them on international humanitarian law to make sure that the international humanitarian law is being enforced, that the rules of engagements are being enforced, that the Geneva Conventions are being enforced. If there was any issue with any of the international conventions, the Red Cross used to contact us, and we used to make sure that it's being enforced. We used to give trainings and briefings to our soldiers, to the combat soldiers all the time. And I'll share with you an anecdote from military service. This lady, her name is Sabine. Sabine was the head of the Red Cross, of the International Committee of the Red across the ICRC. And one night, Sabine is calling me. It was midnight. By the way, I served in Hebron, in Jerusalem, and in Ramallah. So I served in Hebron, in Jerusalem over here, and in Ramallah, in East Jerusalem, that is. And I was the liaison officer. I served for 5 years because I was a commander. So Sabine is calling me. It's midnight. And she's panicking on the phone. She had a heavy French accent, so I had to calm her down. But then she tells me that 6 years old kid named Amero, just arrived to their office in Gaza, the Red Cross office. And Amero is telling them this awful story that his mom just passed away, and that his stepdad, that is related to Hamas, has kicked him out of his house. And this kid is walking around the streets of Gaza in the middle of the night by himself. Now, anywhere else in the world, a 6 years old kid should not be walking around the streets by himself in the middle of the night. Especially in Gaza. If you read the reports from this summer, you'll see how you can read Associated Press reports and Reuters. They're talking about approximately 170 to 200 kids, Palestinian kids that were killed by Hamas when they built terror tunnels into Israel, the same terror tunnels that Matan was mentioning. They send the kids down, and if the kid will not return, it means that there's not enough oxygen, and he dies inside. Between 170 to 200 Palestinian kids. There's a detailed report by the Associated Press about it, and that's just some of the numbers that they got. I'm sure there's more. So for me to think that this Palestinian kid is by himself in the middle of the night was horrible in Gaza. And I made some phone calls. I called our welfare officer. We have a welfare officer that her job is to take care of the welfare of the Palestinians. And we found out that the kid from Gaza has an uncle that lives in Ramallah. We called the uncle, we told him what happened, and he said, I'd be more than happy to accept Amero, send him my way as soon as you can, I'll adopt him as my own. By 1:30 a.m., Amero was already driving towards the Gaza Street checkpoint. We had to drag 10 soldiers out of their bed in the middle of the night to open the checkpoint for him. And by 4 a.m., Amero was already in Ramallah, reunited with his uncle. His uncle signed all the documents. We coordinated it with the Palestinian Authority, and he adopted him as his own. I called the uncle and Amero 2 weeks after that. I mean, there was a follow-up process of our unit, but I just called them to check up on them because I was obligated to. And the uncle said that he loved Ramallah, and I spoke to the kid as well, and he said that he already made new friends in his elementary school, and that the best thing is that the internet is much faster in Ramallah than in Gaza Strip. And that's an awesome story. For me, it was so good to know that I was able to, as someone that survived a terror attack, to be able to, as a kid, to be able to save the life of another kid. And I was so moved, and I was touched by all the soldiers that were part of it. The soldiers that woke up this open checkpoint, welfare officer, everyone who were involved was doing everything they could to save a kid's life. We have been trained in boot camp that the most important thing is human lives. That we will do whatever we can to defend human lives. This is the first class in boot camp in the Israeli army to defend human lives. And this is one story I know, and it sounds like a drop in a bucket, but it's huge. It's huge for me. It's huge for this kid. And there's many stories like this. This is just one of them. I also forgot to mention, I served as an openly gay commander in the Israeli army. I came out of the closet when I was still a soldier. Later on, when I was a commander, I made a case for it to make sure that the soldiers around me knows that I'm openly gay. The reason that I did is, the reason that I done it was because I remember, well, first I came out to my commander. That was the first person I came out to, and he accepted me better than my dad accepted me back then, which was great. It was great to have this moral support from him. But then later on, when I was an officer, it was important for me to share this story with my soldiers to make sure that they know it. Because back then, I remember hearing that some teenagers, Israeli teenagers, that took their lives because they were closeted gays. And to think that if one of my soldiers will go through something like that was so frightening that I had to do it. That's why I made a case of it to share it, because I feel like people that are in key figures, people that have some influential, need to and are part of the LGBT community, need to make sure that people around them know it, because that gives confidence to others for others to do it. And that's why I did because it was important for me, I guess. It's a picture of myself and TIPH. TIPH is a group of international observers. They walk around the West Bank. Oh, by the way, sorry. It's been a long day. When I came out of the Kazakh, it was 2008. I was able to serve as an open gate commander. While I'm not sure if in America back then it was the spring policy. So in Israel, I know that you have that.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yes. So in the Israeli army, there wasn't something like that. It was open. I was allowed to be who I am without any rules of what I can talk about and whatnot. This is a picture of myself and this group of international observers. They walk around the West Bank. They call TIPH a temporary international presence in Hebron. If a soldier is misbehaved, they write a report and send it to us. They used to send me 300 reports a month, and I had to go through each and every one of them. If a soldier is misbehaved, to actually punish him. One time I had to send one of my soldiers for 2 weeks in prison for misbehaving. Sounds rough, but it was supposed to open. So we have a humanitarian lane in each Israeli checkpoint to cross into Israel. That in case there's a pregnant woman or there's a handicapped person, they'll be able to cross smoothly and won't have to stay in lines. And my soldier was late to open this humanitarian lane in 2 hours. He was supposed to be there at 6 a.m. and he got there at 8 a.m. And I sent him for each hour that he was late, I sent him for a week in prison. It sounds rough, but I think it's really, the following day, all of my soldiers were there at 5 a.m. They learned not to mess with me. I'm sharing this because it's important to emphasize that Israeli soldiers are not perfect. We try to be as best as we can, and we are holding ourselves to the highest standards, but we make mistakes, and nobody's perfect, other than Beyonce. Nobody's perfect. Someone's right, she is. Some more pictures from the West Bank. Many times those observers didn't even speak Arabic, so I had to intermediate between them to the Palestinians. Here we are building a clinic for the Palestinians. It was $200,000 project with the help of the Red Crescent and the Red Cross. This is me. A clinic that still serves the residents of Hebron, of the Palestinian side of Hebron. Me and USAID, United States Agency for International Development, that donates a few hundreds of millions of dollars for infrastructure projects in the West Bank. Here we are building a road that led from Ramallah to Bethlehem. It's the road behind us. It used to be called the Death Road because there were so many accidents in this road. That's why I brought the USAID to build this road, to rehabilitate it, to make sure that we save more lives. It was supposed to be a 5 years project. We ended up in 3 years. We finished the project because we were able to get all the improvements and work really smoothly. And this road still works, and the amount of car accidents in this road was decreased by 95% since the new road was opened. This is my commander, Khatib. Khatib is a lieutenant colonel in the Israeli army. Khatib is not a Jewish name. Khatib is a Druze. Druze are a branch of Islam. And it's important to say that, Israel is a Jewish state, but it doesn't mean that just Jews lives in Israel. Khatib is Druze and is part of, well, it's actually not, but there's 1.6 million Israeli Arabs that are part of the Israeli society. 20% of the Israeli society, actually. They serve in the army when they want to volunteer. I think the highest ranking Israeli Muslim that serves in the Israeli army is Lieutenant Colonel as well. And they are integrated as part of the society. I think it will take a few generations until they will be fully part of the society, but for now they are clear, equal part of the society, of the Israeli society. Yeah. Khatib was a bigger Zionist than I was. He explained to me why it's so important for him to serve in the Israeli army, and he always says, the Jewish people are strong now in Israel. You have Israel to defend yourself, but you cannot forget that for thousands of years you were the most oppressed minority in the history of mankind. I mean, there was no other minority that was oppressed in the way that the Jewish people were. So for him to serve in the Israeli army means to stand up in the right side of history. And that's what he told me all the time. During the recent war, I was called up for my reserve duty. I was running the International Humanitarian Operation Room in my military base. It was first of its kind. In a military base, the UN, the Red Cross, and different organizations all sat together and coordinated humanitarian work into Gaza, making sure there's enough food, making sure there's enough medicine. Maybe I'll share stories during the Q&A. I'll share stories during the Q&A, but I'll finish now to allow enough time. Growing up in Israel, My mom always said, "Chen, by the time that you'll be 18, we won't have an army. You won't have to join the army, and we'll live in peace with our neighbors." And I turned 18, and she couldn't stand up to her words. But I know that my deepest hope is to promise my kids the same thing. And I'll find a partner and have kids. To promise them the same thing and tell them that they won't have to go to the army because we won't need an army. We won't need to defend ourselves anymore. That's the hope of every Israeli. We want to live in peace. And we want our kids to one day in the future to live in peace too. That's it. Thank you guys so much. You can follow us on Twitter. Any questions?
Yeah, I guess my question's for you.
Okay.
You talk about your grandparents being displaced from Tunisia and Iraq.
Yes.
How's that different than what you do for the Palestinians?
It's a great point. You ask what's the difference between the Jewish refugees from Arab countries to the Palestinian refugees. Well, the Palestinian refugees that were displaced during the war in 48 because of the war that was launched by the Arab countries against Israel, trying to obliterate Israel from the map. Palestinian refugees that were created fled Israel. We're talking about a few hundreds of thousands, not more than the Jewish refugees, and they fled to the Middle East, to Arab countries in the Middle East. While my grandparents and 850,000 Jewish refugees left the Middle East and left everything they had behind, they got to Israel, and Israel relocated them after the Arab countries forced them out. When the Palestinian refugees, because of a war that was launched by the Arab countries, arrived to those Arab countries, they were put in refugee camps. They would remain in refugee camps. It was a strategy to put political pressure on Israel using those Palestinian refugees that have it worse than any other group of refugees. They don't have citizenship. They have generations of refugees. You can be a refugee even if you're a fifth generation. Even if you weren't actually born in Palestine, you can still.
What I'm asking is, how is what Israel is doing to the Palestinians different than what happened to your grandparents in Tunisia and your grandparents in Iraq? How is their displacement different?
Right. So the displacement is different because the Arab countries, the Arab League that launched the war against Israel, they were the ones that were responsible for the war. When the Palestinian refugees arrived to these countries, they kept them in refugee camps. My family, that they were displaced, part of 850,000 refugees that were displaced. When we arrived to Israel, Israel didn't put us in refugee camps.
I'm not talking about your
But that's the
I'm
difference.
talking about the actual displacement that's occurring.
Just let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, can you explain it?
Yeah, like your grandparents were displaced from Tunisia by
Right.
Tunisia,
Right.
just like you're displacing Palestinians from
We're not-
Palestine.
The 1.6 million Palestinian Israelis that have Israeli ID and have equal rights, we have an Arab Supreme Court judge that are part of our society, they are not being displaced, they live in Israel. I mentioned them, 20% of Israelis are Israeli Arabs, Palestinians, or were Palestinians, and they are part of our society. Israeli Arab Supreme Court judge, 20% of our parliament members, there's Arab Israelis in every aspect of the Israeli society. They are Israelis and they got Israeli citizenship. My family didn't get it from the Arab countries. They never had citizenship. The first time they had citizenship was in Israel. That's the difference.
Any question? Fun question. Good question. But is it something? Yeah, sure.
What did your mom put in her charoset?
Sorry.
What does your mom put in her charoset? And what does your mother put in her charoset?
Does your mom make charoset? She doesn't make it. She does.
Oh, come on, there's Tunisian. There's great Tunisian.
Mine puts apples, cinnamon, honey.
It's a food question.
Yeah, charoset. She asked what she put in charoset. Charoset is a Jewish food that you eat on Pesach. Yeah.
It's to symbolize when the Jews were slaves, when the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, they used to make so that when the Egyptians didn't allow them anymore what's the word? Tent? No. The thing that you build
Mortar.
Yes,
Mortar.
yes. So they didn't allow them anymore, so they had to make something by themselves. So to symbolize it, we are making this dish that is super sweet and made out of this condensed with honey or something that is similar. Yeah, so I was.
She puts apples, cinnamon, and honey in it. And you know, it's funny. I just thought of it this last Pesach that like it's so tasty. I don't understand why they make it like every day. Why just on the holiday? It just doesn't make sense. They should sell it at the supermarket. I think it's really good.
Because it's very fattening. That's why we don't eat it every day. My grandma and my mom used to make it from dates, honey, and nuts. And it's fun. It's amazing how different Jews from different countries are making it in a different way. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, sure.
Being part of the LGBT community in Israel, you spoke a little bit about the Army. What about after the Army? How is it treated, or is it just, and maybe compare a little bit how it is in the U.S. or other countries?
Right. Well, I lived in Seattle for 2 years, and Seattle is very open to LGBT, but not as anything close to Tel Aviv. I think because, you know, it's not don't ask, don't tell. It's don't ask because we don't care. People just don't care. You see people walking down the streets, holding hands. No one is screaming at them. When I was with my ex-boyfriend in Seattle, don't ask. But it ended badly. When I was walking with him down the streets in Seattle, it was always uncomfortable to hold hands. But in Tel Aviv, it's completely different. I mean, it's really open. It's very accepting. There's a warm feeling of, you know, you're protected. It's if it's perfect, no. And probably when you leave Tel Aviv and you get to Jerusalem, let's say, it's not. Probably you shouldn't hold hands with your partner because it's going to be a bit. You know, it's still not. We're still not in a place that it's completely accepted, but it's very, very accepted. I'm actually volunteering in this project in Israel that brings Palestinian gay guys from the West Bank on buses once every 2 weeks to Jaffa, Tel Aviv, and there's a party between with Israeli gays and Palestinian gays. I can't share much about this program, and you don't hear about it because their life is at risk. If someone would know about this, they would. There was attempts in the place where to change places. The Palestinian society is not accepted, and they're still being prosecuted, just like in Gaza, where gay guys are being hanged. But in Israel, it's really different, and it's amazing how in this small country in the Middle East, where would never be accepted in any other country, it is accepted. So yeah, so it's awesome. And I mean, Tel Aviv was chosen to be the best party town in the Middle East, but also that the competition wasn't tough. But also the friendliest city for gays in the world by American Airlines. American Airlines had a survey, and Tel Aviv was chosen to be the friendliest for gays. And also the website gay.com had a survey 2 years ago, and Tel Aviv was chosen to be the friendliest to gays, winning over San Francisco, London, and so on. So it's awesome to be part of this community that is so that we didn't receive independence. We take it as LGBTQ community because you can't expect your government to give it. You have to take it, and we're doing it. There's tons of programs to help people understand what it is. We're going to military bases and explaining. There's a group called Hoshem. Sorry, very quick. That is doing advocacy for LGBT in the army, that are going to high schools and explaining what it is. The LGBTQ community in Israel cares about this issue so much that we are working to make a difference, and you can feel it. As a gay guy, I can feel it. Does that answer any question? Sorry. Yeah.
What did you learn about peace when you were growing up in school?
Peace is everything when you grow up in Israel, okay? It's really hard to explain this. I just saw, it's Independence Day in Israel, next 2 days and 3 days, and now people are hanging up flags, the Israeli flags on the front porch, and I'm seeing tons of photos on Facebook of flags being held up, that it's the white, blue, and in the middle, instead of the Star of David, they put the word peace, shalom. And that's the flags that are being held this Independence Day. It's being like the hit thing to put up. You know, we grew up singing about peace, learning about peace, hoping for peace. And you know, all we can do is expect is that, like Chen said at the end of the speech, that when our children grow up, they'll have peace. Really are.
And actually, once a year, we have the Yitzhak Rabin Memorial Day. Yitzhak Rabin was an Israeli prime minister that was assassinated. And once a year, we have the Yitzhak Rabin, because of political issues. Because one person that really led to peace in Israel history, I guess. Or there were others as well, but it was very significant in his work. And there's one day that in school and in the media and everywhere we're talking about Yitzhak Rabin's effort for peace and how important democracy is and how violence is not the way to achieve peace. And that's something that I remember that every year I was, it's really touching every Israeli. This day is a day that we are just focusing on how we can bring peace closer.
What sort of response do you have to the accuracy of international media, their coverage of the war last summer?
I think that, well, first of all, you can go online on camera.org. Camera is the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting. They show a clear bias of the international media against Israel. You can read the AP reporter, Matthew Friedman. Matthew Friedman also, he was a reporter of AP, and he talks about a clear bias that he saw in his organization. It's not things that we would say because we feel that we can say, oh, you guys are Israelis. You always think that everyone is you. But you can actually read reporters that are saying how biased it was, and that's just in their level. Also in Gaza itself, the journalists are talking about how they were controlled by Hamas terrorists. Hamas terrorists were the one taking them to several places. They didn't allow them to film everywhere. They knew exactly what images they want to film and watch things they want out and watch what things they don't want out. And that was really controlled by Hamas. And there was a clear bias, but it's not something we say. It's something that the reporters themselves are saying.
I guess this would be for you, Matan. You were talking about your experience as like an IDF soldier during the summer of 2014, and I don't know, I think you said like defense a lot, but from what I've read online, it seemed like, I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, the numbers were like 2,200 Palestinians were killed versus less than 100 Israeli citizens and soldiers were killed. So it just seemed like more of an assault on Gaza, on Palestinians than on Israeli. You can talk more about that, or if you consider that to be
First of all,
just defense.
I'd like to say that as an Israeli, when I see people suffering, when I see people getting killed, it saddens me. I don't like seeing anyone killed on both sides. But you really have to understand that when Israeli children grow up in a situation where their lives are being threatened by rockets daily, Israel is attacked first. So if Israel is attacked first, then it has to defend itself. And when we attack these rocket launchers, these Hamas terrorists, unfortunately, civilians get killed when these civilians are used in a cynical way by Hamas terrorists, where they shoot these rockets within crowded areas, within civilian population, from UN schools, from hospitals, and we try our best to make sure that no one gets hurt. But unfortunately, until Hamas stops using civilians as shields, then unfortunately many Palestinians will be hurt. And I really hope that Hamas stops doing this. And I hope that they'll listen to the UN that asked them to stop doing this. As long as there's children as human shields, then Israel will do whatever it can to stop these attacks on civilians.
If I may just add, I mean, it's saying that it's an assault because more people died on the other side. It's just completely irrational. If you're looking at any conflict in the history, look at World War II. How many Nazis died and how many Allies died? Does it make a case? If you even need to make a case by who dies more, it makes your case irrelevant, I have to say. And it's just sad that you need to count bodies in order to make a case to your side. I'd have to say that every life that was taken during this war in this summer is in the blood in the hands of the Hamas. The blood of the people that died is under the hands of Hamas. Hamas knew exactly what they were doing. They have full responsibility for every life that was taken, not only on the Israeli side, on the Palestinian side as well. And if you read the reports by the UN, by other organizations there they're talking about over 60% terrorists from the other side that were hiding in civilian, just like Matan said, you can see the videos of how rockets are being launched from hospitals. Let me ask you a question. If you will get to your house and someone would start firing at you with a baby in his arm and your mom there, would you shoot back or would you to save your mom? Knowing that you might kill a baby, would you shoot back to save your mom or not? Try to think about it morally. It's a dilemma, but what do you think?
I know I'm having trouble picturing the situation, I guess.
Right, and that's the problem with it. It's a different situation than anything you ever dealt with. The Middle East is very different from anything that America or any Western society had to deal with. When you are fighting a war, you're sending soldiers 1,000 miles away. When we are fighting a war, we are driving 2 hours to our front lines, and that's the difference. And I guess this is why you would never be able to really comprehend this situation.
Yeah, okay. You can ask. You know what, she was holding her hand up, so you can ask.
Oh, yeah. I want to know how those who are required to join the military, but yet they do not wish to follow orders. Here they're called conscientious objectors. How are they dealt with, and are they permanently ostracized in society once they've either served their sentence or otherwise punished?
Well, it's very clear that military service in Israel is mandatory. And if a soldier doesn't comply with his duty to serve, then he's punished by Israeli law. And that's exactly what happens. It's a very, very, very small minority in Israel. We hardly hear of them. But there are some soldiers that do it, and they get punished.
But what I mean is, are they permanently ostracized in society once they have served their punishment?
No. Usually leave Israel, so it doesn't really matter. But no, they're not ostracized.
Yeah, I think they're part of a society. People that are consciously that don't want to serve in the army. There's a committee in the Israeli army of professors and doctors that are experts on this. Psychologically expert, and they're making sure that it's actually that they have a real case to make for why they're consciously opposed military service. And if they get exempt, they get exempt. If the committee doesn't find them seriously, consciously that they're actually doing it for conscious reasons, they go to the military to go to the prison. And when they finish their time in prison, they get to the Israeli society. Yeah, it's a stain, just like a stain on someone that goes to prison for criminal activity. But can they not get a job later? They can. They can be part of the society. Usually, as Matan said, they don't want to be part of the society, and that's why they're doing it. It's fringe, extreme cases. We're talking about less than.
It's very, it's very, very extreme. If they decide not to go to the army, they're punished, and later on they can do whatever they want with their life. Israel's a free, democratic country, and certain people who break the law get punished, and then they move on with their lives. So yeah, it's really not that big of a big deal. Yeah, Chef.
Going off of that, can you talk about more of the other parts of the army that are not necessarily infantry or navy? Maybe some of the people who go and do like social work or something like that?
Yeah, sure. Wow, it's a great question. I'll tell you why. Because the Israeli army isn't only defending Israeli citizens. It's also it's a step for many Israelis to integrate into Israeli society. A lot of people that come from tough backgrounds or from or are uneducated. The army is an opportunity for them to succeed in life. So there are people in the army that their jobs are to either educate soldiers, and when I mean education, literally giving them math lessons and history lessons. There are people that are there to take care of soldiers of their social needs. If they have a problem at home, that they help them at home. If they need money, the army gives them money. And it's all just a step to let the soldiers feel that they're in a safe zone, and they're in a safe hub, and they can excel in their military duty and not always think of home.
intelligence, social work, education unit. It's the only army in the world that has an education unit. I think that the Chinese army also have an education unit, but it's a different type of education. The Israeli army's education unit is working on educating for values and things that are important for us as civilians. We'll take one last question, and then we have to finish.
So I think this could pertain to both of you. I don't know, but
Can you speak louder?
yeah, sorry. I think this could pertain to both of you, but I'll just ask. This is like a kind of an opinion question. So like, what do you both see like the vision of like the IDF and like the Israeli army like a few years? Like, what is like your vision? Like, do you think like it'll change from what they're doing now, or what do you think is going to happen in a few years?
In what way do you can it change?
Like, do you see like anything changing, like their objectives or like their purpose, or do you think like something?
I don't think its objective is going to change. The objective of the Israeli Defense Forces is one, to defend Israeli citizens. Sometimes the threats change, so the way we defend our citizens change. But I can safely say that I don't see a way that things in the army are going to change, because they don't need to change. You know, we're just doing our best to defend Israeli citizens.
And to wrap it up, you were waiting for.
Oh, thanks. My question goes to the narrative. What is the narrative of your neighbors? How do the regular Israelis see their neighbors? For example, like when you go to Egypt, the locals are very hostile. They don't like the idea of the state of Israel per se. Very aggressive. You always often hear local politicians. For example, when the Muslim Brotherhood was in power, they often ran against Israel. So I want to know what is the narrative? What is the local narrative of the normal Arab states or your neighbors? How do the normal Israelis view them?
How do Israelis view them?
Yes. Not you per se, but just the general consensus.
Okay. First of all, I think it very much changes between every different country. You know, the Middle East changes so quickly that it's hard to have a clear opinion about one state or another. But generally speaking, I think that Israelis know that there's a conflict, that these other countries don't like us. So, you know, you could say that they don't really like us, and as long as they're there, we need to defend ourselves. But it's also very important to say that I think the complete majority of Israelis really hope that, you know, the simple guy or girl that sits on the other side of the border wants to live a normal life and wants to live in peace. And, you know, sometimes politicians disagree, but I think the people, if it was up to the people, we would have peace a long time ago. And as an Israeli, I can tell you that I'm sure that most of the people in the Arab world would want to forget of all these problems and kind of get along. And that's my view of them.
And I just want to add that most of Israeli Jews are, if we're referring to Israeli Jews and rather than the Israeli Arabs, so there's 1.6 million Israeli Arabs and there's 6.6 million Israeli Jews, right? Out of the 6.6 million, I think over 60% are Jews from Arab countries, like my family that were refugees from Arab countries. We know what it's like to live in an Arab country. We live there. Like my family, the stories that I heard, I'm still listening to Kulthum at home. I have the Arab culture is part of
But it wasn't pleasant, was it?
Sorry?
It wasn't pleasant for them to live there, like for your family, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, well, it wasn't pleasant to live there as citizens because they didn't have rights. But the culture itself is an amazing culture that they love, and I still love, and my family still plays traditional Arab instruments, and they still sing Arab music in Arabic. We are part of it. We are, you know, we tend to think that Israel is this Western country. It is. We are trying to uphold Western ideals and to be this Western democratic state. But at the end of the day, it's still a country in the Middle East, and it's still ancient people that have ancient values and still are, you know, trying their best to fit this, to uphold themselves to higher standards and moral standards. But yeah, no, but like we do. But we are part of the Middle East. We are another country in the Middle East. We have the same I believe most of us are still part of this culture. For me, it's an amazing culture that yeah, we have peace agreement with Jordan, we have peace agreement with Egypt, and as Matan said, we wish we'll have peace agreement with the rest of the countries. Kind of losing my point here, but yeah, but I mean, you got what I'm saying. Thanks a lot. Let's end in a positive note. Well, we spoke about peace a lot, and we spoke about our hope for a better future, and we truly believe that peace will come through dialogue, through understanding. We don't want to change anyone's mind. If you have your opinion, you have your opinion. But the fact that you are sitting here and having the openness to listen to a different perspective and challenge your own, I commend you for that, and I'm humbled for you to be in here and listening. And this is the way to move forward to have this out. So thank you guys so much.
Just shortening up my stick. I'm surprised that none of you had any questions for these two. I thought there would be 3, but only 2 of them. I guess one is just like their guide or something like that. But the reason why I wanted to stream this is I wanted to hear their stories. You know, some people might not like the idea of me, say, playing both sides, but you know, I'm just trying to be a good streamer and capture different stories from different people, and this is just one way of me doing it. And as far as, I don't know who the she is you're talking about. You know, taking millions. I don't know who this she is, so I cannot answer that. So I just don't have an answer for that. But anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, and thank you for putting up with me streaming this. And I'm glad that I didn't have any audio or video issues, which is good. But before I close it out, oops, I'm not going to the water bottle. I'll just put it back in my coat pocket. Before I close it out, I want to again thank you for watching. And if any channel restreamed me, I think whatever restream channel picked me up and rebroadcasted me. I don't know if any of them did, but those channels that do that kind of thing, such as Global Occupied News Network or Activist World News Now, or any of the others that do it, there's quite a few that do it. Just throw my purse over my shoulder. You know, they're the ones that pick up these individual stream feeds and rebroadcast them. And so I want to thank them for doing that. They do a good job. They boost our audience and help us get these events out there. And so I'd like you to check out my donation links below the bottom of the video view window if you're watching me directly on Ustream. If you're watching me on a Restream channel, or you're watching on a mobile device and can't really see everything on my channel page, please go to www.gofundme.com/OccupierKaylin. That's KAYLYN. Again, www.gofundme.com/OccupierKaylin. Or if you're not able to access GoFundMe, or you don't have any of the currencies that it supports, you can go to PayPal, www.paypal.com, and in the Send Money To line, enter the email address strainsop@aol.com. Again, www.paypal.com, and in the Send Money To line, enter the email address strainsop@aol.com. That will help me cover the cost of my live streaming and broadcasting. I do this solely on my own dime. I don't get any contributions from any organization corporate owned, independent. Otherwise, I work solely for the pleasure of my viewers. And as I said earlier, I do sometimes broadcast things that some people might not like. If you don't like it, don't watch it, you know. I just try to be well-rounded. You know, I want to bring different events to you from Des Moines. I'm the only currently streamer working in Des Moines, and I'm trying to get others to take it up, but so far no one has taken me up on my offer to teach them how to stream. So I eat a big data plan. I sacrifice for it, and I will keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. So if you can, kick me a little something through GoFundMe or PayPal. And if you cannot donate money, then spread my donation links around. Spread my channel around. Let other people know that there is a streamer working in Des Moines. And I'm just gonna slide over here. People are still talking and chatting. I might pick up a few conversations. I'm gonna check my juice. Oh, yeah, I still got a fair amount of juice.
You said it really well. I mean, we were engaged in the southern
A couple guys are chatting with these Israelis. Oh, I'm still talking to my viewers. So they're not really saying much. None of them had any questions.
Really?
Yeah.
Viewers, wake up.
Yeah, they're just probably one just dropped off. So I had 7. And then there are other channels that pick up individual live stream feeds and rebroadcast them. So on livestream.com, I'm using Ustream. And then there are other apps like Bamboozer or Twitcasting that people can use to live stream. And I follow a couple of Israeli streams, as well as others in other countries. So I follow streams from all over the world, and I've had viewers from all over the world, so that's good. And so, what have you think of your tour through the U.S. so far?
It's interesting. We're getting different responses. I get to be live streamed.
Yeah. And is this your first time in Iowa?
Yeah, it is.
Well, you came at a busy time because of this is Drake Relays Week here, so there's lots of activity. So getting ready for that. So you picked a busy time to be here, and politicians are coming all over the state, starting their presidential campaigns here. So yeah, there's a lot of.
Iowa, New Hampshire. If you want to run for president,
Are they here now?
I'm sure they are.
There are candidates coming in and out, going all the time. So different days, different ones might be here. It just all depends on their schedules and how they choose to do it, when they choose to do it.
Hillary was here last week.
Yeah. Hillary Clinton was here.
She launched her campaign
in Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, she put up a video, and then after she published that video, then she came here to Iowa.
Well, she thought I would be here a week earlier.
Oh, she missed you.
She missed me.
Just missed you.
Thanks a lot.
It's all about the timing.
It's all about the timing.
Yeah, it's all about the timing.
Well, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
No, that's good. I just like she's fellow just very nice. Yeah, she got a context.
That was a bit of a reach.
Did it cost us?
We have to head out.
It looks like their host is saying that they got a slide.
Do you want both of us or just Mitch?
I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Those guys are going to get ready to head out to where they're going to spend the night. And they're probably blown out of here tomorrow morning.
Where we stay, why you party? We're staying in the point, yeah.
We have the Drake Relays. There's this event called Drake Relays. It's like this week long.
Yeah, there's a parade. There's a parade, and then the actual athletic competition takes place at the stadium.
Yeah, it already started, so it's like an athletic competition, but
and then there's part of it is a marathon through the streets of the city.
it's very famous. So people,
Yeah, it's an international competition.
yeah, which a lot of people in different countries.
Used to last before all like the health requirements and stuff. It's on the conveyor.
It's funny because my grandfather saw
cross competition.
who are we?
Is that still on the same battery?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even plugged into my power pack.
Do you want to do the thing?
My name's Ethan Fickow. I'm a student. I'm right for the Times Delta. Can I record a quick interview for you?
Oh yeah, sure. Do you want both of us or just?
Sure, but I can do separate interviews.
Okay, cool.
Do you mind if I record it?
Yeah, do you mind if you can do it like on the side and not have everyone?
That's not
Just so I can be like more focused. Cool, thanks. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
That's
There's another student journalist who interviewed the taller guy. So that's good to see that student journalists are out here doing this also. But sometimes I go to events that there is no one else. I'm the only one covering it. But that's cool that others are doing it. And hopefully I'll see them at future events. And speaking of future events, before I close it, I'll let you know that my next event here will be at 5 o'clock Central at the Capitol. It is it's a rally for gotta grab a drink from my bottle. Yeah, it's a rally at the Capitol, and so that'll be at 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. So I'll be covering that on Wednesday. And that should be a good event, so I think I'm going to go ahead and take this down and so again, check out my donation links and kick me a little if you can. If not, spread it around. And so until Wednesday, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the